Hello guys, welcome to my channel once again. My name is Albert Jerry. If you are a newcomer, kindly subscribe to this channel, like the videos and comment. For all those that have subscribed, thank you for watching this video. Kindly share the link to your friends to also watch. Leave a comment in the comment section, your suggestions about what you really want me to talk about in the next videos. So in this episode, I'll be talking about insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, I will explain that in a bit. But do you feel fatigued? Do you gain weight? Do you lose weight? This is all regulated by insulin. So now, what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone which I talked about in a previous video as well. It is produced by the beta cells in the pancreas, and it is produced in response to blood glucose. So blood glucose is the single molecule that your body gets from consuming carbohydrate diet or sugar. So when you eat carbohydrate diet and your body breaks it down to glucose, single molecule, and it's in your blood, insulin is released so that it will enable your body cells to take up all this blood glucose for energy. What is insulin resistance? As the word suggests, it means in simple terms, your body or your cells are resistant to insulin. Before your cells can take up blood glucose, they must bind to the hormone insulin. Okay, so when your receptors on these cells are not able to bind to insulin, your cells will be starved. They will not be able to take up glucose or sugar in your blood for energy. So how does this condition develop? It usually develops when you are consistently producing insulin in response to blood glucose levels. So that means you are habitually eating carbohydrates or sugar on a daily basis such that your body is producing a lot of insulin. And our body really works like a machine. Imagine you are driving a car and you are not servicing it. It will come to a time the body parts will be breaking down. It's the same thing that works in our body. So the moment you are feeding the body always with carbohydrate diet or sugar, your body is producing insulin even beyond the normal in response to these diets you are consuming. So it comes to a time your body cells will not be responding to this hormone insulin. So you will not be able to use your blood glucose. When you are in that state, then it means your body is resistant to insulin. Now I will explain some symptoms of insulin resistance. This is important because a lot of us are insulin resistant. About 70 to 80% of Ghanaians or even in other countries are insulin resistant. But because we don't usually diagnose it, we don't know our status until maybe we have diabetes, hypertension, or cardiovascular disease complications, and then we are diagnosed of insulin resistance or diabetes or these diseases. What are some of the symptoms of insulin resistance? I'll be going through them and I'll be explaining them to you as well. So in case you are experiencing these symptoms, you should kindly visit the hospital, see a doctor, and my advice for you is to reduce your carbohydrate intake so that you will be able to reverse this condition. So the first one I will talk about is frequent urination. This is not the case where you are healthy and you are hydrating a lot and you are urinating, but this comes from having insulin resistance and you are frequently urinating. For instance, at night you wake up 3, 4, 5 times at night before daybreak to urinate. So this happens because when we consume a lot of carbohydrates and our body stores them in a form of glycogen. When your body cells are storing carbohydrates in a form of glycogen, per every molecule of glucose that is being stored, there is water attached to it, like 2 molecules of water attached to it. So that means if you store 1 gram of carbohydrate or glucose in your cells, there is 2 grams of water stored with it. So when that happens and you consume a lot of carbohydrate diet and your blood glucose is very high always, during filtration by your kidney, the kidney tries to reabsorb glucose. But in a state where it is overwhelming, the kidney will not be able to keep up. So you'll be filtering out glucose with water, okay, because the body is trying to get rid of it. So in that case, since it is stored with water, you will be urinating it in a urine. So in Ghana, we mostly attach sugar to a condition called diabetes. Okay, that is how come. So that is one symptom. Another symptom is dehydration and increased thirst. So this is linked to the first symptom. Now this happens because when you are frequently urinating, because the body is trying to get rid of the excess glucose in your blood, you will be losing a lot of water with it. So you will be dehydrated, and when you are dehydrated, you will be feeling thirsty. So that means your thirst levels will increase, and then you'll be drinking water frequently. It's different when you are normal and you are taking a lot of water, but this case is when you are insulin resistant, and it's a symptom to look out for in diabetes people or pre-diabetes people. They take in a lot of water and they urinate frequently. So this is in their case because the urination dehydrates them, and then they have to compensate by feeling thirsty and taking a lot of water in that case. So another symptom is frequent hunger, okay, and overeating. So how does this happen? When you are eating a lot of carbohydrates and you have blood glucose high in your system, your body produces a lot of insulin to compensate it, to bring the blood glucose down, because a lot of blood glucose is not good for the body. So the body tries to use it up. It produces a lot of insulin above the normal in order to bring the blood glucose down. So when that happens, in one case, your body cells will reduce the glucose level because it produces beyond normal. Like, let me explain that. When you have a lot of glucose in your body and the body produces just normal insulin to bring out that sugar level down for your body cells to use it, that is not enough because your sugar level is above the normal. So the body produces a lot of insulin to compensate it. When you have a lot of insulin in your system, it also signals storage of glucose. So instead of the glucose which is being taken out by the cells to be used for energy, it goes on to store it as fat in your body. So when that happens, we call it glucose crash. So when that happens, you've eaten a lot of carbohydrates. Immediately after that, then you are feeling hungry, or you are eating a lot because you are feeling hungry, okay, then it leads to overeating. Or in another scenario, it happens because your body cannot produce insulin to match up your glucose level. In another scenario, when your body is resistant to insulin, because the insulin is not working properly, your body cells cannot take up the glucose that you've eaten, or the carbohydrate, or the food that you've eaten. So in that case, your cells will still be signaling, your stress hormones will be up, and your brain will be signaling for hunger, and then you'll be feeling hungry, and then you'll be eating more, which will lead to overeating. So another symptom I will talk about is craving for carbs. Craving for carbs, okay, this happens when you have insulin resistance. Just as I've talked about the previous symptoms, this is also linked to the previous symptoms. When your body cells are deprived of glucose, which is the molecule they use for energy, they are energy deficient. So in that case, your system will be signaling for more food, okay? Then that more food will be from carbohydrates. So there's fizzy drinks and a whole lot of sugary drinks, okay? Your body cells are starving and they are deprived of energy. Another one I will talk about is needing to take a nap after eating, especially after lunch. A lot of people usually, after taking a heavy meal or a lunch, they feel like taking a nap. They are fatigued, okay? That is a symptom of insulin resistance, and you need to go for a checkup. So another one I will talk about is fatty liver. So we have alcoholic fatty liver, which affects people that take in a lot of alcohol. But we also have non-alcoholic fatty liver. So this happens when you have insulin resistance, and in that case, you have insulin resistance and your body has a lot of glucose in the blood, but because your body is insulin resistant, you are not using it properly. So what happens is that insulin is a storage hormone. When you have a lot of insulin in your body, it signals that your glucose should be stored as fat. So when that happens, the liver, which also takes up glucose, okay, stores this glucose in a form of fat. So when that happens, you have a lot of fats stored in your liver, leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver. So that's a condition. The next one I will talk about is belly fat. When you are insulin resistant, you intend to store a lot of fat, especially in your abdomen, which are your adipocytes, your fat stores or your fat cells in your abdomen. So there is this way of determining if you are insulin resistant. It's just simple by standing up and watching down to see if you can see your feet. So there is this thing that if you are not able to see your feet, then you should know that you are insulin resistant, because your belly comes out in such that you will not be able to see your feet when you look down. So belly fat is also another symptom to look out for insulin resistant patient. So another one is blood pressure. I explained in my previous video that cholesterol, bad cholesterol, can also come from consuming a lot of carbohydrates, or sugar increases your bad cholesterol, your LDL. This happens because when you have a lot of insulin and your body cells are resistant to insulin, it will signal that you should store your carbohydrates in a form of fat, because insulin is also a storage hormone. When that happens, you are producing a lot of fat, and every time you have insulin upregulated, lipolysis is inhibited. Okay, lipolysis, I mean the breakdown of fats is inhibited. But when you have insulin resistance, this doesn't work properly. So you will be breaking down fats in your muscles, and those fats are breaking down into free fatty acids, which go on to make up triglycerides or triglycerides. This forms your bad cholesterol or your LDL in your body and lowers your high density lipoprotein or your good cholesterol. So when this happens, you have a lot of bad cholesterol in your bloodstream, and you have your blood vessels being clogged by this bad cholesterol, and it constricts, and then it increases your blood pressure, and that can give you cardiovascular diseases or hypertension. Okay, so the next symptom I will talk about is skin tags. There are people that have another skin or a tag growing on their skins. When that happens, it's found out that insulin binds to insulin-like receptors, insulin-like growth hormone receptors. So when that happens, it's because insulin is found to bind to insulin-like growth hormone receptors on the skin. And when that happens, your skin cells tend to proliferate quickly, and that can also lead to hyperpigmentation. So that is another symptom. So you see hyperpigmentation because your insulin levels are high and your body is insulin resistant. So that happens, you see hyperpigmentation in the armpits, on the neck, and some places. So another symptom I'll talk about is low cholesterol. Low cholesterol is associated with insulin resistance, and in ladies you have low estrogen, so it is opposite for the ladies. So when your body is insulin resistant and you are producing bad cholesterol, okay, in men you have erectile dysfunction because your insulin levels are down, because the hormone that converts testosterone to estrogen is upregulated. It's called aromatase, and in the case of ladies it is the opposite. So instead of producing estrogen, they upregulate testosterone in the ladies. So you'll be seeing a lot of male feature in the ladies, and you'll be having something like infertility in ladies, and in men you're having erectile dysfunction because your testosterone level is low but it's high in the ladies. So that is another symptom to look out for. So the last but not the least I'll talk about is weight loss and weight gain. So normally insulin resistance or diabetes is associated with obese people or obesity, but in late stages of insulin resistance or diabetes, somebody can be losing weight. Okay, so let me explain these two and then we close. For weight gain, your body, so from the start of insulin resistance, your body is able to produce a lot of insulin to match up your blood glucose level, okay, because that is the beginning. So it's trying to, the body works in mysterious ways. So it's trying to reduce the blood glucose by any means. So instead of normal insulin level, it produces beyond or above that level. So when that happens, insulin is also a storage hormone. So you intend to store a lot of these carbohydrates or glucose as fat, And when that happens, you will be storing fat in your belly, in your adipocytes, and you will become obese. But in a case where you lose weight, when you are losing weight, it means you are already pre-diabetes or diabetes stage. This is because when that happens, your blood glucose level is there, but your insulin is also there, but your body is resistant to insulin in such that it cannot even take up any glucose in your blood. So when that happens, the body tends to other metabolic pathways in order to account for your loss of energy by the cells. So when that happens, you have autophagy and your body breaks down other nutrients in your body in order to produce energy. So when that happens, you intend to be losing weight, okay, because your glucose cannot enter the cells, not to even talk of storing it, so you will not gain any weight. So now, this is just the few insulin resistance symptoms that I bring to you. Kindly look out for these symptoms and visit the hospital when you are experiencing them. And the good thing is that we can reverse insulin resistance or diabetes, which is type 2 diabetes. You can reverse insulin resistance and you can prevent type 2 diabetes. So when you watch this video, make sure you take it serious and then cut down on your carbohydrates. I'll be talking more about how the body is able to use other sources of food or molecules like proteins and fats for energy. Okay, you know we have 20 amino acids, okay, that are classified in humans, but these amino acids, only 2 cannot be used for glucose. Okay, so when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, you are damaging yourself or your body. So you can get glucose from other sources of food like good proteins, good fats. Okay, so you don't need to be consuming a lot of carbohydrate. Thank you for watching this video. Kindly subscribe, leave a comment for me. Thank you. Bye.